It's early June 2013. A man sits in a hotel room in Hong Kong, a laptop open in front of him. Outside, the city is alive, but in here, there is only the quiet hum of the machine. That laptop contains thousands of classified documents he copied from the National Security Agency. He's about to share them with journalists from The Guardian. This man is Edward Snowden, and once he hits send, there is no going back. His life and the public's understanding of privacy will be changed forever. This is the moment the world learned the name PRISM. The first story drops on June 5, 2013. The Guardian reveals a top-secret court order forcing Verizon to give the NSA millions of Americans' phone records every single day.
And that was just for metadata, right? Who was calling whom? And for how long? The government insisted they weren't listening to the calls themselves. But it was still a bombshell.
Millions of records a day. That's not a wiretap, that's a vacuum cleaner. But Alex, you said that was just the warm-up act.
Exactly, because the next day, June 6th, The Guardian and The Washington Post published slides from a classified 41-page PowerPoint deck. It describes a secret program called PRISM, which gives the NSA the ability to collect data directly from the servers of the world's largest tech companies.
Hold on. Directly from the servers is the key phrase there. That's a world away from just requesting specific information with a warrant.
Oh, good. So instead of just knowing who I called, they're now reading my emails where I complain about who I called. Much better.
The list of companies in that slide was a who's who of 2013 Silicon Valley, Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, Facebook, even YouTube and Skype. And according to the document, the program had already been running, in secret, for 6 years.
So basically my entire internet history since college, my angst-eye blogs, my bad photos, my arguments in chat rooms, it's all in an NSA file cabinet somewhere. Fantastic!
6 years of secret collection. That's the part that always gets me. It's not just that it happened, it's that it happened without anyone knowing for so long.
The source of the leak is quickly revealed to be Edward Snowden, a 29-year-old NSA contractor working for Booz Allen Hamilton. He wasn't a disgruntled spy. He said he intentionally exposed the program because he believed the public had a right to know.
And that's a crucial distinction. This wasn't an accident. He made a conscious decision to become a whistleblower, knowing it would end his life as he knew it.
A 29-year-old contractor. So, the guy with the password to everything was basically the IT guy. That's both terrifying and deeply relatable.
Within days, U.S. officials were forced to respond. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, and even President Obama himself confirmed that PRISM was real.
But they immediately tried to frame it. They claimed it was legal, fully authorized by the Secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, or FISC. And this is the key part, strictly targeted non-US persons located outside the country.
A secret court? Okay, when the court itself is secret, the word legal starts to feel a little flexible.
The entire legal justification rested on a specific law, Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. It was passed in 2008 specifically to make it easier to collect foreign intelligence from overseas targets.
Which sounds reasonable on the surface. The problem is how you define targeted when you're scooping up data that travels across the global internet infrastructure.
Right. It's like saying you're only trying to catch tuna, but you're using a net the size of the entire Atlantic Ocean. You're gonna catch a few dolphins. And a lot of my old blog posts.
The tech companies, for their part, immediately went on the defensive. They issued carefully worded denials, claiming they had no knowledge of a program called PRISM, did not provide the government with direct accesses to their servers, and only ever handed over user data in response to specific, lawful requests.
The direct access phrase is weasel words. The documents didn't necessarily mean a physical wire out of the back of the server. They meant a streamlined, automated, real-time process for data retrieval that wasn't going through the front door with a normal warrant.
It's the difference between the cops knocking on your door with a warrant versus them having a secret key to your apartment they can use whenever they want. Both are lawful, but one feels a lot worse.
And that became the central conflict. Snowden's documents claimed collection directly from the servers. but officials and the companies themselves described a formal targeted request process. The truth of what PRISM really was lay somewhere in that gap.
It's the difference between wholesale and retail surveillance. The documents suggested the NSA was getting data wholesale, directly from the source, while the government insisted they were only making specific retail purchases with court approval.
So let's look closer at what that wholesale collection really meant. The leaked slides weren't shy. They boasted about the data PRISM could collect: emails, chat logs for video and voice, photos, stored data, file transfers, and your complete search history.
This was the moment the debate shifted definitively from metadata to content. It wasn't just who you were talking to. It was what you were saying word for word.
My search history. Oh, that's just great. There is a file on a government server somewhere that documents my descent into madness trying to figure out how to bake sourdough bread in 2013.
And the scale was immense. A declassified 2011 opinion from the FISC court revealed that PRISM collection accounted for 91% of the roughly 250 million internet communications the NSA acquired under that one authority that year.
250 million internet communications under a single legal authority in a single year, and PRISM was the fire hose. It wasn't a niche program for this type of collection. It was basically the only program.
So it wasn't a side project, it was the project. That's like finding out the bake sale is actually the primary funding source for the entire school district.
The government's defense always centered on that idea of targeting foreigners. But the system inevitably swept up massive amounts of data from Americans communicating with people overseas. They had a name for it: incidental collection.
Which is a dangerously misleading term. If you target a German academic and he emails 100 American colleagues, you've just incidentally collected the private communications of 100 Americans without a warrant.
Incidental collection is the best euphemism I've ever heard. It's like saying you incidentally ate the entire pizza when you were just trying to get one slice. It happened on purpose. You just don't want to admit it.
And what happened to that data was even worse. Further leaks revealed the backdoor search loophole. Once they had this giant database of incidentally collected American data, NSA, analysts could then search through it using Americans' names and emails.
All without a specific warrant for that search. They were using a database collected without individual warrants, and then searching it for specific Americans, also without a warrant.
Wait, so they get to build the haystack without a warrant, and then they get to look for the needle without a warrant. That's not a loophole. That's the whole point of building the haystack in the first place.
And it wasn't the only method. Another program revealed in the leaks was called Upstream. This was even more direct, and in some ways more terrifying than PRISM.
Upstream was the NSA tapping directly into the fiber optic backbone of the internet, the physical cables. If PRISM was getting data from the company's filing cabinets, Upstream was sitting at the post office, opening every letter as it flew by.
Okay, so PRISM is reading my diary after I'm done writing my entry. Upstream is reading it over my shoulder as I write it. I think I'm starting to see why people were upset.
So while PRISM was targeting data held by companies, Upstream was vacuuming it up while it was still in transit. Both programs were authorized under the same law, Section 702.
But Upstream was far less targeted. The documents showed it collected content and metadata in bulk first, and only filtered it for foreign targets after it was already in their possession. It was a fundamentally different model of collection.
So PRISM is burgling your house, but Upstream is just mugging the mailman every day on the off chance he has a letter for you. Got it.
And the oversight for all of this, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, or FISC. The leaks exposed it as a secret court, meeting in a secure, undisclosed location that handled the government's surveillance requests.
And when we say oversaw, we should use that term lightly. Records showed the court almost never denied a government request. Between 1979 and 2012, it approved over 33,900 warrants and rejected only 12. Its rulings were also completely classified.
Wait, a secret court with a 99.96% approval rating, whose decisions are also secret, that's not a court. That's a rubber stamp with a really good pension plan.
But the scale was still hard to grasp until another program came to light, Boundless Informant. It was an NSA data visualization tool that mapped the sheer volume of intelligence being collected.
And its own charts showed that in a single 30-day period in early 2013, The NSA collected nearly 3 billion pieces of intelligence from inside us networks alone. 3 billion.
3 billion pieces of data in a month from just us? At that point, you're not looking for a needle in a haystack. You're collecting all the hay on planet Earth just in case it might one day become a needle.
So, let's break it down. Verdict 1. PRISM is absolutely real. The name, the program, the data collection from tech companies, all confirmed by U.S. officials, including the president, on June 6, 2013.
There is no ambiguity there. The government was forced to admit to it almost immediately after the first articles were published.
Yeah, this isn't a theory. This is the government getting caught with its hand in the world's largest cookie jar.
Verdict 2. The program was legal, but only because the government created a secret legal framework to authorize it. It operated under Section 702 of FISA, and its actions were approved by the Classified Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court.
That's the core of their defense. They insist they followed a legal process, even if that entire process was hidden from the public.
Calling it legal, when the law and the court are secret, is like saying, I have permission, when you're the only one who wrote the permission slip. It doesn't exactly scream accountability.
Verdict 3. The collaboration of the major tech companies is confirmed. They were legally compelled, and while they still argue about the term direct access, the fact is they built a system to provide the NSA with their users' data.
The documents show that these companies were the collection points. They received the legal demands under Section 702 and had to comply. The debate is about the method, not the outcome.
It's the I was legally compelled defense. It's like a bouncer saying he had to let the vampires in because they had a warrant. Technically true, but everyone still gets bitten.
Verdict 4. The mass collection of Americans' data is also confirmed. The government called it incidental, but the scale was enormous. The key revelation wasn't just the collection, but the ability for the NSA to perform backdoor searches on that data without a warrant.
Correct. They could query the vast database of incidentally collected communications using an American's name or email address, effectively targeting them after the fact.
So it's not that they read your mail by accident. It's that they collected everyone's mail, put it in a warehouse, and then decided to read yours later just because they felt like it.
Verdict 5. The source is confirmed. The person who leaked thousands of classified documents proving all of this was, in fact, Edward Snowden, a 29-year-old NSA contractor.
He was a systems administrator for the contractor Booz Allen Hamilton, which gave him incredible access to the NS. As internal networks and the classified files stored there.
One guy with a thumb drive changed the entire world's understanding of privacy. Never underestimate the IT department.
And final verdict, the type of data collected is confirmed. Thanks to the leaked NSA slides themselves. We know this was about content. It was your emails, your chats, your photos, your search history, not just metadata.
The program's own documentation listed these content types as available for collection. The official line that it was only about who and when was proven false by the NS. As own PowerPoint.
So, they knew I was ordering pizza, and they also knew I was ordering it with pineapple. Some secrets should stay buried.
And that brings us to the big picture. PRISM and the other Snowden revelations ignited a global debate about the fundamental conflict between national security and the right to privacy in an age where our entire lives are migrating online.
It forced a public conversation that had been happening only in secret within classified courtrooms and intelligence committees. Suddenly, everyone had a stake in the meaning of Section 702.
It was the moment we all realized the internet wasn't just a fun series of tubes. It was also a surveillance grid. And we were the product.
The revelations shattered public trust, not just in the government, but in the tech giants we had started to see as custodians of our digital lives. The phrase Orwellian, which used to be literary criticism, suddenly became everyday language.
That's the double betrayal. People felt spied on by their government, but also felt betrayed by the companies they trusted. The social contract of the internet was broken.
Right. Don't be evil turned out to have a lot of fine print. Suddenly, every accept terms and conditions button felt a lot more threatening.
The Snowden leaks also forced a public reckoning with the very idea of secret laws and secret courts. For the first time, people were asking if democratic oversight is even possible when the tools of government are themselves classified.
It's a fundamental paradox. How can the public consent to laws they aren't to read, interpreted by a court whose rulings they aren't allowed to see?
It's like having a secret student council that can expel you, but you're not allowed to know the rules, who's on the council, or why they made their decision. It's not a system of justice. It's a whisper network with subpoena power.
And for many, PRISM confirmed their deepest fear that the government's promise to only spy on foreigners was a distinction without a difference on a global internet.
Because data packets don't carry passports. If you email someone in another country, your data crosses borders. In that instant, under the government's logic, your communication became foreign intelligence and was fair game.
Look, if you want more of this kind of thing, where we connect the dots between the official story and the secret slide decks, we're here every week. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive.
In the end, PRISM wasn't a conspiracy theory, it was a confirmed conspiracy fact. A secret program of immense scale, exposed by a single individual, which forced a global conversation that continues to this day.
It raises the question that's still unanswered. How much power are we willing to give our governments to operate in the dark? All in the name of security.
And on that cheerful note, sleep well.
Next week we're going after the Philadelphia experiment, a Navy destroyer that supposedly turned invisible and teleported, with horrific consequences for the crew. We're reopening that case.
It's one of the oldest and weirdest stories in military lore. You won't want to miss it.
Until then, remember, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean your smart fridge isn't listening. Good night, everyone.